continue now at the top of Daf Yomi Gemara and Meseches Moed Kattan. This is Moed Kattan Daf 18b. Hasaparim, again, the Mishnah said if you're talking about hand towels or the towels of the saparim, the barbers, it sounds like only those are going to be permitted, that you're allowed to wash them on Chol Moed. Hani in Klei Pishton Lo, it sounds like those are permitted, but linen garments, it would not be allowed. Rashi over here says Klei Pishton Lo Nafish Tircha. The reason why Klei Pishton on the previous Amud, the reason why there was a heter, was because it's not such a bother, it's not such a burden to wash them. But again, the implication from the Mishnah is mitpachos hasafarim shel pishton. Those are also made of linen. Hani in aval shar klei pishton lo. It sounds like only the ones listed in the Mishnah, but other linen garments would be a problem. So the Gemara says, Amar le Abaye, Abaye said to him, Masnisen afilu deshar mini. When our Mishnah is listing various garments, it's not only talking about linen garments. As Rashi over here says, afilu deshar mini, kilomar mitpachos deshar minin. Let's say you had these hand towels or the barber towels made of other things. Could go in December, for example, wool. Even though it's a big burden to wash them, shari lechabes, you're allowed to wash them. Aval shar kelam deshar minin lo, but other garments made of other materials would be a problem. Aval klei pishton shari lechabes, but it could be, according to our Mishnah, linen garments would be totally permitted to wash them. That wasn't being addressed in our Mishnah at all. And the Gemara continues, Amar Barhedya says, Lididi chazi liyamashel Tiveria, I saw at the Sea of Tiveria, the mafki la meshichli the mani kisna, they had basins full of linen garments that they were washing, bechola de moada, and Chol Moed, meaning he's saying, apparently it's mutter. So the Gemara says, Ma'askeful Abaye asked on that, Man lei malon devertzon chachamim avdi, who said that they did this in agreement with the words of the chachamim? Dilma shelo beratzon chachamim avdi, maybe they did it, but the chachamim did not agree to what they were doing. It's no proof that it's mutter to do this on Chol Moed. The Gemara continues with the Mishnah of Yelu Kosvin b'Moed. The following documents can be written on Chol Moed. Kiddushay Nashim, that's documents of marriage. V'gitin, documents of divorce. V'shovarin, that's a document that serves as a receipt. Daitiki is a will. Matana is a document to give a gift. Upruzbalin, that's a document that is written in order that Shemitah should not cancel a loan. Igaros Shum is a document for valuation. Let's say you're valuing property, how much it's worth. Vigaros Mazon, documents of sustenance. Let's say a person is taking upon himself to provide mizonos for somebody. That's Igaros Mazon. Shari Chalitza is documents of Chalitza. Let's say a woman doesn't want to do Yibum, so then you write a document of Chalitza. Miyunim is when a girl who's a minor, she grows up and she wants to refuse a marriage that she was engaged in as a minor. That's a document of Miyun, refusal. Ushtare Beirurin, that's a document of arbitration. Gezeros Bezdin, that's a document that has the rulings of the court. V'Igaros Shel Rishus, and any letters that are back and forth between ruling bodies, between the government, meaning official documents of the Rishus, of the authority, those all are allowed to be written on Chol Moed. The Gemara says, Amar Shmuel says, Mutter la'ares isha b'cholo shel Moed. It's mutter for a person to betroth a woman on Chol Moed, to do an erisin. Shama yikadmenu acher, because we're afraid otherwise maybe somebody else will marry this woman first. So the Gemara says, Leima Messiah, let's bring a proof to this. The Elu Kosvin b'Moed Kiddushay Nashim. It says you're allowed to write Shtar Kiddushim. On Chol Moed seems to be exactly what we're saying over here. Shtar Kiddushin would be the same thing as an erisin. My lav, Shtari Kiddushin Mamish. Doesn't the Mishnah mean to say that you're allowed to write Mamish a Shtar Kiddushin, an actual Shtar Kiddushin on Chol Moed, which would imply you're allowed to have erisin and Kiddushin on Chol Moed? So the Gemara says, Lo, no, that's not what it means. What it actually means is Shtare Psikta. It actually means Shtare Psikta. That has to do with the amount of money that's going to be given in terms of the dowry. Uchud Rav Gidol Amarav, it's like Rav Gidol says in the name of Rav. The Amar Rav Gidol Amarav, because Rav Gidol says in the name of Rav, Kama atanosin levincha, how much are you going to give to your son? Kach v'kach, it's going to be such and such an amount. Kama atanosin lebitcha, how much are you going to give for your daughter? Kach v'kach, it's going to be such an amount. Amdu v'kitshu, and then if they stand up and they betroth, they have kiddushin. Kanu, that's officially an acquisition. Hein hadavorim haniknin ba'amira. These are among the things that you don't need to do an actual kinyan. Just speaking it out is enough to make a kinyan. That's true over here as well. And that's the shtar that the Mishnah is talking about. The Mishnah is not talking about writing the actual shtar kiddushin. It's talking about writing a shtar in terms of the monetary obligations that the various parties are undertaking. The Gemara continues, Lema Messiah, let's say that the following Mishnah is a support for Shmuel, who says that you're allowed to have erisin on Chol Moed. The Mishnah says, Ein nosin nashim b'moed. You're not allowed to marry a woman on Chol Moed. Now here it's talking about the nisuin. The marriage is actually a two-step process. You have the erisin and the nisuin. So the nisuin is not allowed on Chol Moed. Lo besulos v'lo almonos. You can't have nisuin with besulos, virgins. You can't have with widows. V'lo miyavmin. You're not allowed to have yibam either. Mipnei shesimcha hilo, because it's considered a simcha. You're not allowed to mix the simcha of the yontiv together with the simcha of the marriage. In any case, what is implied from the Mishnah? Hala Arishari, it sounds like erisin would be permitted. Only the nisuim is a problem. But the erisin would be permitted, like Shmuel says. So the Gemara says, Lomi boy kamar. No, it could be the Mishnah saying not only this, but even that. Meaning, Lomi boy la'aris. we don't even need to tell you that Erusin is a problem. The low kavod mitzvah, because Erusin is not a mitzvah, so certainly that's going to be a problem on Chol HaMoed. Ela afilo lisa, but even the Nisuin Nami also, the kavod mitzvah Nisuin is considered to be a mitzvah, still usher. It's usher to do that on Chol HaMoed. The reason why Nisuin is a mitzvah is because that's already part of the mitzvah of Pru Revu. That's the completion of the marriage. So you might have thought that would be permitted on Chol HaMoed, and so the Mishnah is saying even that is not permitted. The Gemara says, Tashma, come in here. Another proof, the Tana Devei Shmuel was taught in the yeshiva of Shmuel. Ma'arsin, you're allowed to do Erusin. Avalo konsin, but you're not allowed to be konsin. Konsin refers to the Nisuin. Vein osin su'udas Erusin, you're not allowed to make the meal celebrating the Erusin. Velo miyavmin, you're not allowed to do Yibam on Chol HaMoed. Mibnei shesimcha lo, again, because these are considered celebrations, they're simcha, you're not allowed to mix one simcha with the other. And the Gemara says, Shema Mina, indeed you do see from this that Erusin is permitted. The konsin, the Nisuin, might not be permitted, but the Erusin is indeed permitted. And the Gemara says, Umi Amar Shmuel, Shema Yikadmenu Acher. Does Shmuel really say this idea, this svara, that the reason why you're allowed to have Erusin on Chol HaMoed is because we're afraid somebody else is going to end up marrying the woman before you? V'ha'amar Rav Yehuda Mar Shmuel, but Rav Yehuda said in the name of Shmuel, B'chol yom v'yom baskol yotzes v'omeres. Every single day a baskol goes out and declares, Bas Ploni leploni, the daughter of so-and-so will marry so-and-so. Sode Ploni leploni, the field of so-and-so will belong to so-and-so. In other words, everything is predetermined. So how is it possible that somebody else is going to be able to marry this woman before you? It's not possible. It's already been predetermined who everyone is going to marry. So the Gemara answers, Elo shema yikadmenu acher berachamim. What it really means is maybe somebody is going to marry first, berachamim, through davening. Now Rashi over here explains, this Rashi is going on the Gemara a couple lines from now, but explains this as follows, Ulahachi ma'aris b'moed, the reason why it's permitted therefore to have Erusin on Chol HaMoed, shelo yikadmenu acher berachamim shetam he. We're afraid that somebody's going to daven, somebody else who wanted to marry this woman would daven that the woman should die. So we're not really afraid that someone else will marry this woman. That's impossible according to Shmuel because it's predetermined. A baskol goes out and say who's going to marry who, but it is possible for another individual to daven that this woman should die, and then the person won't be able to marry her. So that's why, again, you're allowed to have Erusin on Chol HaMoed. Gemara continues with a story in this regard. Kihod Rava Shamei Lugavra, the boy Rachami V'Yamar Tizdamin Li Palnisa. Rava once heard a man who was davening and saying, I want to marry so-and-so. Amar Le, so Rava said to him, Lo tiboy rachmi hachi, you shouldn't daven like this. Ichaz yelach lo azla minach. If she's fit for you, you're not going to lose out. V'lo, and if not, kafart b'Hashem, you're going to come to end up denying Hashem. Basar hachi shamei dekamar. After this, so he heard the person davening as follows: O iu lemus mikama. Either he, the person was referring to himself, either I should die before her, O iu tamas mikame, or she should die before him, meaning she should die before me. When Rava heard this, Amar Le said to him, Lav aminalach, didn't I say to you, Lo tiboy Allah de milsachi, that you shouldn't daven in this way for this kind of issue in terms of marriage? You shouldn't daven for it. Again, it's something that's predetermined. Rashi over here says, Kafarta b'Hashem b'amona de ka'amar de lo masayet selusa klum. In other words, you're going to deny Hashem because it's going to come out this woman wasn't for you anyway. You're not going to marry her. Kalamar hashtat salina alav lo istaya milsa. Either she's predetermined for you, so you don't need to daven for it, or you'll daven for it, you won't get it because she's not destined for you. So Amar, he said, he started davening, if she's not going to marry me, the way Rashi understands the Gemara, the person was davening, I want either that she should die, meaning I don't want to see her marry someone else. So either she should die, or maybe I should die and not see it. I'd rather die rather than seeing her marry someone else. So that's the idea of barachame. It's not that somebody else is going to marry this woman, but it's that the person might end up davening that either he or the woman should die. Again, this is the same one Rashi we just read. It's for this reason that you're allowed to have Erusin on Chol HaMoed. We're afraid otherwise somebody might end up davening that she should die. The Gemara continues, Amar Rav Mishum Rabbi Reuven ben Itzrobili. Rav says in the name of Rabbi Reuven ben Itzrobili, Min HaTorah u'min HaNeviim u'min HaKsuvim, from the Torah, from the Navi, from the Ksuvim, Me Hashem isha le'ish. We see that it's from Hashem which woman marries a man. Min HaTorah, from the Torah, because the pasuk says, Vayan Lavan uvusel vayomer me Hashem yatsa hadavar. Lavan and Besuel, they said, this was talking about Rivka, they said it all came from Hashem, this marriage between Yitzchak and Rivka. Min HaNeviim dechsiv, we see it from the Neviim, because the pasuk says, V'aviv v'imo lo yadu ki me Hashem he. Again, the father and his mother, they didn't know that this was all arranged by Hashem. This was talking about by the story of Shimshon. And min HaKsuvim, we also see it from the Ksuvim dechsiv, because the pasuk says, Bayis v'ho nachal asavos, a person's house, a person's wealth, that's an inheritance from his forefathers. Umei Hashem isha maskalos, but it's from Hashem that a person receives a woman again. So you see the idea that the marriage is predestined from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And the Gemara continues, V'yamar Rav Mishum Rabbi Reuven ben Itzrobili, and Rav says in the name of Rabbi Reuven ben Itzrobili, V'yamri Lov Masnisa Tana, some say it's in a brisa taught as follows, Amar Rabbi Reuven ben Itzrobili, that Rabbi Reuven ben Itzrobili says, Ein Adam Nechshad B'davar Elim Ken Aso. A person is only suspected of something if he actually did it. Suspicion is not aroused for no reason. V'im lo asakula, if he didn't do the whole thing, asa miksaso, he did part of it. V'im lo asa miksaso, and if he didn't do part of it, here believe lasos, he must have at least thought in his mind to do it. V'im lo here believe lasos, and if he didn't think in his mind to do it, roa acherim shasu, maybe he saw others do it, v'samach, and he was happy about it. And the Gemara says, Mesev Rav Yaakov asks the following question. The pasuk says in Sefer Melachim, Vayechapu b'nei Yisrael dvarim asher lokein al Hashem Elokeim. It says that the b'nei Yisrael, they said things about Hashem that were completely untrue. And so the Gemara says, no, Hasam over there, lahachesu David. They only said these things in order to anger Hashem. They didn't believe that these things happened. But in a normal situation, if somebody is actually suspected of something, there must be some truth to it. And the Gemara continues, Tashma, come in here, the following proof, Vayekanu l'Moshe b'machane li'Aaron kadosh Hashem. This pasuk is a pasuk in Tehillim. It says they were all jealous of Moshe Rabbeinu. And Rav Shmuel bar Yitzchak Rav Shmuel bar Yitzchak says on this pasuk, Malami, this pasuk teaches us shekol echad kinei li'ishto Moshe, that every single individual, he warned his wife not to be with Moshe, not to be in seclusion with Moshe Rabbeinu. All of Klal Yisrael, they suspected Moshe Rabbeinu. And there again, the suspicion was false. There was no truth to it at all. So the Gemara says, no, Hasam mishum sinahu David. There was only done out of hatred. If it's done out of hatred, so then it could be that there's no truth to the suspicion at all. The Gemara continues, Tashma, come in here. Another proof. Amar Rabbi Yossi says, Yehei chelki misha choshno so bedavra ve'einbo. I want my portion to be among those who are suspected of something, and they didn't do it. So again, it's clearly implied that it's possible that someone can be suspected of something, but be totally innocent. V'amar Rapapa, and Rapapa says, L'didi chashdan v'lohababi. I had a case like this. I was suspected of something, and I didn't do it. So the Gemara says, Lo kash is not difficult. Habekala de pasuk. Habekala de lo pasuk. It depends if the rumors stop or if the rumors are persistent. If the rumors are persistent, if they don't stop, so then you know there's some truth to it. And the Gemara says, Vekala de lo pasuk ad kama. When we talk about a rumor that doesn't stop, until how much? What's considered that it doesn't stop? Amar Abaya says, Amrli Aim, my mother said to me, Dume demasa, the amount of time of a rumor in the local neighborhood in the city, Yomo Palgas, a day and a half. If it persists for more than a day and a half, so then you understand that there's some truth to the rumor. V'hani mili de lo pasuk beini, but that's only true if it doesn't stop in the interim. Aval pasuk beini less lan, but if it stops, if it has a pause in the interim, then we assume there's no truth to the rumor. V'chi pasuk beini, when it stops in the interim, lo amrnel de lo pasuk mach masira. That's only true if it didn't stop out of fear. Aval pasuk mach masira, but let's say it stopped out of fear, meaning the person the rumor is about is a dangerous individual, so there was a pause in the rumor for that reason, so lo, then that doesn't count as a pause. That's considered a consistent rumor. V'lo amrnel de lo hadar navat, and we also only say it if it doesn't restart again. Aval hadar navat lo, but if it restarts, then we don't say that. Then we say that it's a real rumor. V'lo amrnel de les le'oivim, and we don't say that unless the person has no enemies. Aval is le'oivim, but if the person has enemies, oivim hu dafku l'kol. It's the enemies who put out the rumor. We can assume there's no truth. It was just a false idea that was spread by this individual's enemies. And the Gemara continues with the Mishnah, Ein kosvin shtari chov b'moed. You're not allowed to write documents to collect debts on chol hamoed, v'im eino ma'amino. Now, if the person doesn't trust him, o she'ein lo mayochel, or he has nothing to eat, hareza yichtov, then you're allowed to write it. When it says ein lo mayochel, it might mean to say that the scribe who's writing the documents, he doesn't have what to eat. He needs to have some business, so then you're allowed to write the shtari chov. In kosvin svarim tefillin u'mezuzos b'moed, you're not allowed to write Sefer Torah, tefillin and mezuzos on chol hamoed. Ve'in magian osachas, you're not allowed to fix even one letter. Afilu b'Sefer Ezra, even in the Sefer Ezra. We'll see Rashi in a moment on that. Rabbi Yehuda says, Kosev Adam tefillin u'mezuzos liatzmo. A person is allowed to write tefillin and mezuzos for himself. We'll take a look at Rashi over here. V'meino ma'amino hamalva l'lova. Again, if the malva doesn't trust the lova, you can write it. O she'en lo mayochel l'sofer. Again, like we said, the sofer doesn't have what to eat. Afilu b'Sefer Ezra. What does it mean, Sefer Ezra? One explanation is Sefer Torah shel Ezra. It means the Sefer Torah that belonged to Ezra. You're not even allowed to correct that Sefer Torah. But Rashi continues, Vanisha Mati, I heard the following explanation, Azora behei, that it shouldn't be read Ezra with an aleph, but it should be Azora with a hey. Uperish Sefer Muga Hoya Ba'azora Shrimenu Hoyu Magiyim called Sifrei Gola. There was a Sefer that was corrected, fully corrected in the Azora that they used as like the master Sefer Torah to make other Sifrei Torah from. all over the exile. So even that Sefer Torah should not be corrected on Chol HaMoed. La'atzmo, then it said at the end over here in the Mishnah that you can write a tefillin and mezuzos li'atzmo, meaning l'kayim zeh mitzvah, to fulfill the mitzvah. Avol letzibor limchor, if you're writing it to fulfill the mitzvah of tefillin and mezuzos, that's okay. But to write the tefillin or the mezuzos to sell to other people for the tzibor, the derech schirus have it, that's already to do business. Chashav malacha, that's considered malacha, and that's going to be a problem. We'll continue with this discussion in the next video on Daf Yotes Amud Aleph.